And we are back. Welcome to my keep or sell video for Manchester United in the summer transfer window of 2023. Now, let me start by saying a thank you to everyone who got involved with the discussions after my FA Cup final reaction. It's had the most engagement I've had in any video on this channel with over 30 comments. So make sure you're getting involved today. There's going to be a lot more controversy in some of the decisions that I will be making in this video. So please do comment your thoughts down below as always. And of course, remember to drop a like on this video as well and subscribe to the channel. This is the first part of a two-part video. Next Monday, I will be posting my thoughts on who I think Manchester United should be signing and what I think our team will look like for next season. We'll be doing that on Monday because the internationals will be back and I will be doing daily predictions once again once the internationals start. So keep or sell today. Players I think we should sign on Monday. And like I said, it's going to be a very controversial one. So let's get straight into it with one of the ones that divides the fans the most. And that is David De Gea. So I'm going to do this by position order. I'm going to go through the goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and then forwards. You'll see that I've also put a little player profile on there as well for each player, their age, nationality, their remaining contract, and their weekly wage. And like I say, we'll start with David De Gea because he is probably the player that divides opinions the most in the Manchester United community. And for those of you who don't know my thoughts on David De Gea, I will put my verdict out there straight away, which is, of course, sell. Now, obviously, I know he has been a very good servant for Manchester United. He now has the most appearances for a goalkeeper, the most clean sheets. He is a very decorated goalkeeper for Manchester United as well. The only tournament he has not won with the club is the Champions League, which we do have a chance of winning next season because we are in it. Whether or not that's a realistic chance is a whole debate for another day. But for me, his time is long since past. I told to sell in last year's video, and I'm sticking with that this year. He's got 1 year remaining on his current contract because we have the option to take that up. We are, of course, in heavy talks with him at the moment to increase his stay at the club longer. But in the last 24 hours, there has been reports that Saudi clubs are looking at him. And we know about the impact of Saudi League on football at the moment. The likes of Ronaldo already being over there. Karim Benzema has signed this week. N'Golo Kante looks set to sign for a Saudi League club this week, as does Alexis Sanchez and a few others. It's sort of becoming the has-been or retiring league for current footballers. So for me, it is a good opportunity to capitalise on this Saudi hype and actually sell David De Gea to one of these Saudi League teams. If we take the option on his current contract, obviously with the wages still intact at 375k a week, we are then in a position to negotiate a pretty good price for him as well. I think at his age, with his catalogue of achievements over the years, we could still command easily 20 to 30 million for him. And we know that the Saudi League clubs will be willing to pay that much for him. Not only that, they will meet his wage demands. That is the whole thing around De Gea at the moment. He doesn't want to take a significant pay cut off the back of us qualifying for the Champions League and him winning the Golden Glove. But for me, it's a great opportunity to get rid of him to a Saudi League team that will pay his wages and give us a good transfer fee for him. Our other main goalkeeper is, of course, Dean Henderson, who returns from his loan at Nottingham Forest. He has 2 years left on his contract, and his wage is £100,000 a week as well. Last year, my verdict was to keep him and to have him be our main goalkeeper for the season that's just gone. That, of course, didn't happen. He kicked up a fuss that De Gea was going to stay, to the extent that we did end up loaning him out to Nottingham Forest. They look like they're interested in keeping him and have already been touted at saying that they're willing to offer between 25 and 30 million for him. So, given the fact that Erik ten Hag's process has been about removing the bad eggs, the ones that have been causing the problems in the dressing room, for me, as much as I like Dean Henderson, I feel like his opportunity at Manchester United has now gone. So my verdict for him is to sell as well. And like I say, I've put an estimated transfer fee of 25 to 35 million on him, given the talks that we have already had with Nottingham Forest. On to our reserve goalkeeper. That is, of course, Tom Heaton. He has got 1 year left in his current deal. He's on a wage of 42,000 a week, which is actually a lot more than some of our first team players and youth team players that have been in and out of the first team this year. It is quite a lot, but we do need someone like him around the club. He's sort of taken the Lee Grant role of half goalkeeping coach and then will play if available or if required. So my verdict for him is just to keep him. I don't think there's much more I need to say about Tom Heaton. When we get to Monday's video, I will talk about the potential replacements in the first team choice in goal. But that is going to round off the goalkeepers section of this video. Now let's move on to the defence, and I will start with the right backs. Now, this one's a very obvious one. Diogo Dalot has just signed a new contract at Manchester United. That will keep him at the club for the next 6 years. I've been impressed with his performances offensively. He could probably still do with a little bit of work defensively, but he's obviously going to stay. We're going to keep Diogo Dalot. He's just signed a new 6-year deal. He is literally the easiest one to do. There's been no point in me saying sell on that one. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the next one, and somehow he still divides opinions. Apparently Manchester United are looking to sign another right-back in this summer transfer window, which boggles my mind because Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been absolutely sensational. I said to keep him last year, where some fans were saying sell him for as little as 10 million. So hopefully he's proven those doubters wrong. And look, it's always going to be a keep for me on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. In my opinion, the best defensive right back in world football, should be in the England squad, in my opinion, as well. And he is obviously going to be in my Manchester United squad for next season. The final right back is Brandon Williams. Now, obviously, he can play right back and left back. He's now 22 years of age, still has 2 years left on his current contract, and he demands a wage of $65,000 a week. That is staggering. It's why we couldn't find him a loan club this season. Thankfully, Norwich were willing to pay his wages 2 seasons ago, but his time at Manchester United is long since past. He's just, unfortunately for him, he's just not quite up to the standards required. I still think he could do a job at a bottom half to relegation threatened team or potentially do really well in the Championship. So my verdict for him is sell. I think we're only going to get around 5 to 10 million for him. It's just those wages could really be an issue in trying to get Brandon Williams out of the club. And it may be to the extent that we have to take a reduced transfer fee just to get him gone because of the wages that he is currently on. On to left backs then, and Luke Shaw is the first one up. Again, don't think I need to say too much about him. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season, whether that's at left back or at centre back. 4 years left in his current deal. He is obviously going to be staying. The other left back is the one that we signed last year, Tyrell Malacia. Again, very impressed with his performances so far this season. Still 23 years of age, 4 years left on his current deal. He is obviously going to be staying as well. Our third choice left back is the one that we sent out on loan last year and someone that we spent some good money on a couple of seasons ago, and that is Alex Telles. 30 years old now, the Brazilian. He is on around £93,000 a week, which is 100,000 euros a week. It was hard for me to decide. I just thought I'd go pounds for all the wages. He is on 100,000 euros a week, which is currently £93,000. Obviously, he is not going to be staying at the football club this season, so my verdict for him is to sell. I think we could still get around 10 to 15 million for him. He has a very good history. His performances for Porto speak for itself. He's done okay when he's played for Sevilla this season. Obviously, they won the Europa League. He did take part in that final, so hopefully he's done enough to either get a move back to Sevilla next season or potentially move back to Brazil or maybe back to the Portuguese league. There's definitely opportunities for him. We paid around 15 to 20 million for him. I reckon we could get 10 to 15 million for him. Maybe a smidge less, but I'm optimistic that we can get a good fee for a Brazilian international like Alex Telles. We do have one more left back, which is our youngster Alvaro Fernandez. I'm a big fan of this guy. I always hear and see good things about him. Had a very, very good season at Preston North End last season. He's only got 1 year left on his current deal, so I'm convinced that we'll be doing everything in our power to convince him to stay on a longer contract, probably give him a little bit more wages as well. My verdict for him is obviously going to be loan once again. We can't have him as a third choice left back in the club. I would be looking again to loan him to maybe one of the newly promoted Premier League sides or a bottom half Premier League side. At this point, at the age of 19, you've got to look at the likes of Alejandro Garnacho, who are 18 and already playing for the first team. If these youngsters are going to be playing regularly for Manchester United going forward, they need to get full-time Premier League experience. So it has to be a loan move to either a Premier League team or a top-flight team from the top 5 leagues in Europe for Alvaro Fernandez this year. That would be what I would be trying to do with him. On to the centre-backs, and we're just going in numerical order right now, and we'll start with Victor Lindelof. I'm a huge fan of Lindelof. Those of you who have watched my channel over the last few weeks know how much of a fan I am of Victor Lindelof. I think he's a fantastic centre-back, thoroughly deserves as many opportunities in the Manchester United starting lineup as possible, in my opinion. He is an absolute keep for me. Don't think I need to say too much more about that. He just thoroughly deserves more opportunities, and hopefully, he will get a more regular spot in the side next season. Number 3 is Eric Bailly, and after another spell away from the club, this time actually on loan rather than picking up an injury for a change, I think it is time for Eric Bailly to go. So my verdict for him will be sell. He's still of a relatively good age for a centre-back. He had a good season at Marseille. He still had some injury problems at times. I think we can still get a decent fee for him. I've put him down as 10 to 15 million. That might be slightly unrealistic. Again, he's on a wage of 80,000 a week, which is going to be a big put off for certain clubs. But for me, I think that is the sort of deal that we can do. Somewhere around 10 to 15 million for Eric Bailly. He's got 2 years left on his current deal. And as much as I like him, same as some other players I've already mentioned, I just think his time at Manchester United is over. So for me, Eric Bailly is going to be sold. Number 4 was, of course, Phil Jones. We know that he has already left the club. He has no years remaining on his contract, so he is going to be released. He's been on a wage of 75,000 a week. He has played 5 times in the last 4 seasons, and he's on 75,000 a week. I think I saw a stat saying that basically that he has cost Manchester United £4 million per appearance over the last 4 seasons, which is absolutely staggering. But look, Phil Jones has been a fantastic servant of the club, and it's still sad for me to see him go because I have watched Manchester United my whole life. I saw how good Phil Jones was when he first signed from Blackburn. He looked like he could be one of the best centre-backs in the world, potentially one of the best holding midfielders in the world as well, depending on certain situations. Sadly, injuries have just thoroughly ruined his career, but we'll always have the memes. So my verdict on Phil Jones is legend status for Phil Jones. Not release. He is an absolute legend and deserves still to get some recognition from the Manchester United fans. I'm sure we'll see him in and around Old Trafford at some point in the future. Be it potentially as a player, not for the club, but I'm sure he'll be some sort of ambassadorial role once he ends up retiring. Next up, we have Harry Maguire. 30 years old now. He's got 3 years left on his current deal, and he is on £190,000 a week, which is 200,000 euros a week. I did look that up. It's on like 189.5k a week pounds. So he's on 200,000 euros a week. I am going to sell Harry Maguire. I don't think I need to say too much more about that. I think the expectation around the club is that Harry Maguire will be sold. I've put an estimated transfer fee of him of 25 to 35 million pound. Now, some of you may think that's a little bit too much. However, the likes of AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus have all inquired with fees in the region of around 30 million pounds. So I think 25 to 35 million is a realistic price for Harry Maguire. Again, wages may end up being an issue, but there are reports in the last 24 hours that Tottenham and Chelsea have made significant inquiries about Harry Maguire's future. So potentially we could end up using him in swap deals, potentially regarding Harry Kane, which I think is unrealistic, or potentially for Mason Mount. So there may be some use for Harry Maguire in negotiation tactics with clubs that we are trying to sign players from, but unfortunately for him, his time at Manchester United is over, and I will be selling Harry Maguire this summer. Next up is Lisandro Martinez, the Butcher, the Argentinian god who has proven all of the doubters wrong this season. He is, of course, going to be staying for next season, and there are already talks about us changing his contract, giving him more wages, which he thoroughly deserves. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season. Speaking of phenomenal centre-backs, we move on to Rafael Varane. The only thing about him is he is on 340,000 a week, which is mind-boggling. Although his performances have been phenomenal, I am, of course, going to be keeping Rafa Varane as well. But yeah, he is another one that is very high up on the wage bill and probably shouldn't be earning as much as he is. Next up, we have Axel Tuanzebe, another player that is already going to be confirmed to be leaving the club this summer. It's just another young player that is just not quite worked out for him at Old Trafford. I do like him. I do think he has had some very good games for Manchester United. We all remember that performance in Paris against Kylian Mbappe a few years ago now. And I wish him all the best for the future. I will be releasing Axel Tuanzebe at the end of his contract, which will free up $50,000 a week from the budget. Another young defender at the club is Teden Mengi, or Mengi, I can never say his name properly. 21 years old now. And this is the sort of player that we need to be looking at and thinking, right, time is up. It's time to sell Teden Mengi. And it's unfortunate to see young players move out of the club, but I'm going to be a lot harsher with my verdicts on players like this year. You got to look at it again. I've already spoken about it. Garnacho, 18 years old. He's already in and around the first team. Mengi has been a bit part player in championship sides the last 2 seasons. For me, that's not a player we need in the football club. We just need to be getting those sort of players out. You got to look at what Manchester City are doing with their young players, selling the likes of Lavia and Bazunu to Southampton for £5 to £10 million when it's obvious they're not going to have breakthroughs in the actual Manchester City team. And I think Mengi is a prime example of a player that we just need to look at and say, look, you've not got a long-term future at Manchester United, so we're going to sell you now, give you the chance to actually develop your career at a club on a permanent basis. So for me, sell Mengi, 2.5 million to £5 million. On to the midfield. We'll start with the holding midfielders, and what better midfielder to start off with the man himself, Mr. Casemiro. 4 years left on his current deal. The signing of the Premier League season, in my opinion. Manchester United's player of the season by an absolute mile. I know Marcus Rashford run it, but Casemiro was my player of the season by a country mile for Manchester United, and my verdict for him is not just keep, but my verdict is captain for Casemiro. Now, I know Bruno Fernandes will probably be named the club captain, but for me, he just doesn't have the right attributes of a captain. He's good on the pitch. He's good at talking to other players on the pitch, Bruno Fernandes. But for me, the amount of whinging and moaning at the referees and then at certain other teammates when he doesn't get what he wants, to me, that's not good captaincy. Whereas Casemiro is a leader on the pitch. He's the organiser of the midfield. He sets the standards for the defence in front of him. And for me, there is no better candidate to be Manchester United captain next season than Casemiro. On to the other midfielders. We'll start with Fred, and another one that does divide opinions, and I understand why some people want to keep him. He definitely has his uses, but for me at 30 years old with 1 year left on his contract, I don't think we're going to be looking to extend that any further. He's on $120,000 a week. We spent a lot of money on Fred, and for me, the output has not justified what we have spent on him. So I am going to sell Fred. I think we could still get around 15 to 20 million for him. That might not be as realistic as it seems with only 1 year left in his current deal, but we know that Fulham are interested. Again, you've got to be looking at maybe doing deals with the likes of Palhinha, where you can get rid of Fred onto Fulham and maybe take Palhinha going the other way. Those are the sort of deals I think we need to be looking at this summer. So for me, as useful as Fred is in some of the big games, I just don't think it's going to work out for him at Manchester United long term. So for me, Fred is out the door. Our other holding midfielder is Scott McTominay. And I said in this video last season that this was a make or break season for Scott McTominay. I thought he had the attributes to really excel in an Erik ten Hag system. This was before we did sign Casemiro, before we confirmed that we were going to sign Christian Eriksen. So he's not really had as many opportunities that I would have liked, but when he has played, he's just not quite hit the standards. So it was going to be make or break, and for me, it is break. And unfortunately, as much as I love Scott McTominay, it is a sell on Scott McTominay. Now, I have quoted him at 25 to £40 million. The reason I've done this is because Newcastle have expressed their interest and apparently are in talks of a deal between 30 and 40 million. So I think we can get some decent money for Scott McTominay. 2 years left on his current deal. A good opportunity to sell him. He's at a good age. He's still a British player, which normally commands a higher transfer fee. And if we can get 35 to 40 million for him, I think now is absolutely the right time to do that. So again, I love Scott McTominay. I love his passion. I love his drive. But we're trying to move to a system where we're going to be competing on all fronts for all trophies. And I just think we need that higher standard of midfielder if we're going to do that. So for me, Scott McTominay, I wish you all the best, but it is farewell from me. Bruno Fernandes is up next onto the attack-minded midfielders now. And look, there's not really anything I need to say about this. Bruno Fernandes is definitely a keep. I've already spoken about why I wouldn't make him captain. He has still had a phenomenal season. 14 goals and 15 assists in a season where everyone said he did terrible. So read into that what you will. For me, he's an absolute superstar. One of, if not our most important player at times. And so obviously Bruno Fernandes will be staying next season for me. Next to him, we have Christian Eriksen, a player who has done a good job for Manchester United. And we all know how much I love Christian Eriksen. I'm just not convinced that you should be playing Christian Eriksen in big games. And we spoke about that before the Manchester City game and obviously in that reaction video after the Manchester City game. Christian Eriksen is a fantastic creative player. He is just not a runner anymore. He has obviously had that massive heart scare where since he's come back from that, he's not been putting in the yards. When he was at Tottenham, he covered more ground than anyone else in the Premier League. He can't do that anymore. He's had a heart scare. He's over the age of 30. He just needs to be used as a creative player. He should not be asked to do the amount of running that was asked of him in games like Manchester City. So obviously I'm going to keep Christian Eriksen, but with the use of smart signings, you then have him for the games against the slightly weaker teams and then put in the more dynamic player when it comes to the big games. Next up, we have Donny van de Beek. And again, a lot of people will be expecting me to sell Donny because it's not quite worked out for him at Manchester United. But I'm going to throw a slight curveball out there and I'm going to go for loan for Donny van de Beek. You've got to find the right club for him though. He's 26 years old. He's got 3 years left on his Manchester United deal. So he's at a good age and he's still got a good contract left at the club. If we can loan him out to the right club, whether that's back to Holland, whether that's to Italy or to Spain, somewhere where he can excel, use his attributes to the best of his abilities, get himself back playing regularly in a first team, in a good team that plays good football. And this time next year, we could be talking about a Donny van de Beek that is ready to take over from an ageing Christian Eriksen in that Manchester United side. I do believe there is a future for Manchester United for Donny van de Beek. But if we loan him out, what we could do next summer is we could be having a discussion whereby he stays because he's performed well. We can sell him for a lot more money than what we could sell him for right now because he's performed well. Or we just sell him because it's not worked out for him on this loan move. So for me, Donny van de Beek gets the opportunity to revitalise his career at another club. And then we'll discuss him again next season. On to the youngsters, and we'll start with Hannibal Medbury. Had a relatively good season down in the Championship, and as per Alvaro Fernandez, I am going to go for a loan, but again, has to be to a top flight side. Premier League or abroad. I know a certain Luton Town that will be looking for creative midfielders, and I think Hannibal Medbury would be a very, very good fit for Luton Town. I obviously want them to do well in the Premier League next season. He is a fighter, he's aggressive, he's on relatively low wages for a Manchester United player as well, so I think it'd be a great club for him to go to. So that's what I'd be targeting for him, a loan move to a promoted Premier League side, or again, a top flight club in Europe. But yeah, selfishly, as a part Luton Town fan, I'd love to see Hannibal playing at Kenilworth Road next season. On to Zidane Iqbal, and again, same old story, loan for me, 20 years of age. Again, he looked promising, he looked fantastic in pre-season last year, but that's it. He looked promising in pre-season last year. He's had no real opportunities to express himself in the first team, and he is 20 years of age. If we're going to get anything out of this player, it needs to be sooner rather than later. So he needs a loan move. It needs to be to, again, in my opinion, a top flight side. I think at 20 years of age, you shouldn't be looking to go down to the Championship. I think that is too far of a step to get yourself back up to first team action. So I wish him the best, and I hope he gets the right move. But for me, Zidane Iqbal goes out on loan. Finally, for the midfielders, we have Kobbie Mainoo, and I'm actually going to keep him. I think he still needs another year, whether that's back in the youth setup or gets first team opportunities in certain matches this season. I don't think we should be loaning him out. I think he has the opportunity to play at a very high level. From what I've seen of him, he is a very, very talented player. It's just we are a bit overloaded in his position right now. But I would definitely be keeping him. I'd be looking to give him first team opportunities this season, but he needs to be playing regularly. And if he is one of the ones that goes out on loan, then fair enough. He is probably one you could still loan out to the Championship at 18. But I just think he has the chance to prove himself this season in certain situations. That will conclude the midfielders. It is now finally time to move on to the forwards. And we'll start with the right wing position, which is pretty much solely occupied by Mr. Antony right now. Has had a mixed season, it has to be said. We paid a lot of money for him, and we are still paying him a lot of wages as well, with £200,000 a week being spent on Antony. And in the last 24 hours, there has been a potential sexual assault charge being labelled at him from an ex-girlfriend from his time at Ajax. So we could be looking at another Mason Greenwood situation with Antony if that isn't resolved quickly. For me, I think you have to keep him. We have to ignore that for now. If that becomes a major issue, then it becomes a major issue. But I'm just going to look at this purely from his performances this season right now. And I think he definitely deserves another season at the football club. And we'll see how his performances develop over the course of this season. And if they don't work out, then we'll assess his future next summer. Speaking of assessing futures next summer, that brings me on to Jadon Sancho, who some Manchester United fans are saying sell now. I don't think that's fair. I really like Jadon Sancho. I just think he's being misused. For me, he is at his best position when he is on that right wing, or if he's in a central role creating. He is just not a left-sided player, in my opinion. He has always been on the right-hand side for Borussia Dortmund, or in the central areas off of a striker for Borussia Dortmund. And his best performances for Manchester United have always come from that right-hand side. The only thing about Jadon Sancho, which is a bit scary, is that $350,000 a week. And I understand why some fans would want to sell Jadon Sancho to clear that sort of wage bill off of the table, and because they think he's not performed to the level that they expect. For me, 4 years left in his current deal, 23 years of age, you have to keep Jadon Sancho. He deserves more opportunities at Manchester United. I think his best times are coming, and I just hope that he is played the right way by Erik ten Hag next season, because I think there is a truly world-class player in there if you can play him in the right position. Next up, we move over to the left-hand side, which is Alejandro Garnacho. 18 years of age, in the Argentinian national squad, 5 years left on his current deal, and we've put a €100 million buyout clause on him. Really? Obviously my verdict is to keep, but my other verdict is remove that release clause. There are talks or rumours at the moment that Real Madrid may trigger the $100 million buyout clause on Alejandro Garnacho this summer. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know who it was that decided to put that $100 million buyout in Alejandro Garnacho, but in the current market, that's not a high enough buyout clause for a player of his talents. We've spoken about it enough over the last few weeks that I think Garnacho should be starting matches, especially if we're looking to play Rashford up front next season. Garnacho should be our left winger, and then you play Antony or Sancho on the right-hand side. $100 million for a player that is that dangerous in that side of the pitch at that age was a mistake. And I really do fear that over the course of the next 2 seasons, we could lose Alejandro Garnacho to that buyout clause. Perhaps that's why he's not getting regular starts. Perhaps we're deliberately holding him back because we've already realised that we've made that buyout too low. But I think he's too good to not get starts next season. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from this kid. And he is the real deal. So absolutely keep Alejandro Garnacho, but please, for the love of God, get rid of that buyout clause before it's too late. Anthony Elanga, 21 years of age, 3 years left on his current contract, and he's only on £5,000 a week. Put that into perspective. The likes of Brandon Williams on 65, Tom Heaton on 42, and many other players that are on a lot more wages than Anthony Elanga. I think we need to be selling Anthony Elanga. I think his time is up. I said this time last year that I would be loaning Anthony Elanga because I don't think he's quite up to it, but he needs a season of full Premier League action to really test his worth. For me, the fact that he's not been in the squad, the likes of Pellistri, and that I've been getting onto the bench and then onto the pitch before him tells me all I need to know about Erik Ten Hag's thoughts. I think he wants to sell him, and there has been rumours this morning that RB Leipzig are willing to pay 20 million for Anthony Elanga. So I've put an estimated transfer fee of 15 to 25 million on him. I hope that we can get around 20 million for him. I think that'd be a good deal. A move to RB Leipzig would be a good fit for him as well. And for me, his time at Manchester United is over, and I wish him all the best wherever he does end up. Speaking of Pellistri, he is up next, and my verdict on him has flip-flopped as I've been making this video. I have decided to land on keep. I really do like Facundo Pellistri. Every time I see him play, I think he's a threat. I think he offers something a little bit different to some of the other players. He's very, very quick-footed, but he's also deceptively fast on the ball, as well. Just like sprinting. He is deceptively fast. He causes problems. He's a very good impact substitute. I hope he gets more opportunities next season. And yeah, I would definitely be keeping him. He is a very good squad player to have. And I think he's a very, very good option off the bench where certain others offer slightly different attributes. Someone with very similar attributes to Facundo Pellistri is someone that we signed at the same time as Facundo Pellistri, and that is Amad Diallo, one of the shining stars of the Championship season last year with Sunderland, and looking for regular first-team opportunities in the Manchester United side next season. Very, very quick feet, but has built up a reputation of throwing himself to the floor. And I think that is something that we don't like to see at Manchester United. We are an honest team. I know we've had the likes of Ashley Young, and Anthony likes to do some play antics at times as well, but I think he needs a little bit more if he's going to be a regular Manchester United player. So for me, I would be loaning Amad again, but again, that is to a Premier League side. And I think someone of Amad's qualities you could probably put in at a slightly better team than maybe a newly promoted side. I know I spoke about how I would loan a couple of players potentially to Luton Town. There is no way Amad is going to Luton Town after what he did at Kenilworth Road for Sunderland with his play acting in that game. But I think you could probably get him in. You know, one of those, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but maybe a Burnley who have lost Nathan Teller because he has gone back to Southampton at the end of his loan. Maybe they'll sign him on a permanent basis. But for me, someone like Amad could go in at a Burnley or a Bournemouth. Those sort of teams that are going to be fighting relegation. Maybe potentially a slightly better team. I think he could potentially do a job at maybe a team like Fulham. I think he's got similar but better attributes than the likes of Harry Wilson. So I think you could definitely get him in at a mid-table team in the Premier League, Amad Diallo. But for me, I don't think he's going to get the opportunities that he wants at Manchester United next season. So I would be loaning Amad out next season. Shola Shoretire is an interesting one. I know a lot of people at the club really rate him. I don't think he's found his right position yet. He's spent some time on loan on the second half of this season and has done well without doing amazing. And given the fact that he's got 4 years left on his current deal and that he's 19 years of age, I actually think we should be selling Shola in the summer. And this is where I come back to what I was saying about what Manchester City do with their young players. I don't think Shola Shoretire is ever going to be good enough to be a regular Manchester United player. So given that he is still this young and has a good contract on him at the moment, this is an opportunity to actually cash in on him. Again, look at selling him to a championship team or a bottom of the Premier League type of team. Try and get 5 to 10 million for him because I think you can with players like this. They've got a good track record for the youth system, have done well when they performed on loan in their first couple of seasons on loan. Cash in on them while you have the chance. So for me, Shoretire gets sold between 5 and 10 million. Marcus Rashford, keep. I mean, there's no real discussion to be had about that. Sort out the contract. He's only got 1 year left on it. I know we're in talks. I know money will probably be the factor. I know PSG are still sniffing around him, trying to offer him ridiculous wages to move to there. But Marcus Rashford, absolutely keep and sort that contract out ASAP. Anthony Martial, sell. His time is up. And it's a shame. It's the same as the sort of Eric Bailly situation. I love Anthony Martial. On his day, he is phenomenal. However, those days don't come enough. He is injured too often. When he's fit, he has 2 or 3 games to get himself up to speed, then he's good for 2 or 3 games, and then he's injured again. We can't have that. Not only that, he's on $250,000 a week. That's far too much for a player whose output is not at the standards you would want from a top-level Premier League striker. I still think at the age of 27, you can get good money for him. I've estimated him at 25 to 35 million, but again, wages could end up being the issue, and we may have to do a deal with a club whereby we have to sort of say to them, we'll reduce the transfer fee because you're going to have to pay extraordinary wages for him. So we'll see what happens with Martial. For me, I don't think he's got a future at the club, especially given the fact that it's touted we're looking to sign 2 strikers in this transfer window. I think it's been made perfectly clear that Anthony Martial will be moved on this summer. And those are my thoughts on how much that I think we can get for him. The final player that we will discuss in this video is the one player that we have avoided talking about other than for a brief moment earlier on in this video, and that is Mason Greenwood. Everyone has their thoughts on this, about what we should do about him. The fact of the matter is, he is 21 years of age, he has 4 years left on his current contract, and he is on $75,000 a week. If Mason Greenwood is going to be sacked, which I don't think he will be, under any circumstance, I don't think he'll actually be sacked. You're looking at paying somewhere of around 20 to 30 million to him to get him out of that contract, because you have to pay off those 4 years, which is an awful lot of money to get rid of Mason Greenwood. Not to mention that he will then throw lawsuits and all sorts at us because he was found not guilty on all of his charges. So the question then comes down to whether or not you sell him, you loan him, or you keep him. I know there are a lot of fans that are of the opinion that he should just be sold, sell him to like a Turkish league team or a Saudi league team where ethics and all that lot aren't necessarily as followed as religiously as they are in this country. I know there are some fans that are of the opinion that you could loan him maybe to a French league team, to a Spanish league team, somewhere where he can rebuild his career, prove that he's still a threat, score goals, get him away from the English media, and then come back next summer, and then hopefully where he scored 15 to 20 goals, and we can then say, right, he's ready to come back into English football. I would keep him. I really would. And you can say what you want, whether or not that dampens my ethics slightly, and you can let me know in the comments what you think about that. But for me, I would be keeping Mason Greenwood, and I would be looking to play him as soon as possible. He is the single best youngster I have seen come through the Manchester United Academy in my lifetime. I was too young to see the likes of Beckham and Scholes and all that lot come through when they came through. The best I have seen is the likes of Rashford and Garnacho. But for me, the impact Mason Greenwood made at the age that he made it eclipses those achievements already. I think he needs to stay. I think he needs to play. That's just my opinion, and you can read into that what you will. But for me, Mason Greenwood gets opportunities next season, in my opinion. And if the media and all that lot can't handle it, the media can't handle it. And that just is what it is. But I'm keeping Mason Greenwood. I also think Erik ten Hag really wants to keep Mason Greenwood. When you look at the comments that he's been saying in the press over the last few weeks about how he's a very talented player and the decision is not up to him. That says to me he wants Greenwood to stay. And if Ten Hag wants him to stay, then I want him to stay as well. So that's all I'll say on the matter. That is the final player that we will discuss in today's video. So all that is left to do is round up everything that I have discussed. And that is on screen for you now. So obviously the green players are the players that I have chosen to keep. They are now all in squad number order rather than position order. Orange is the players that I have decided to put out on loan. And of course the ones in red are the ones that I have decided to sell or release. The important thing is if we do get all of those players sold, worst case scenario, based on the estimations I've given, we will have 182.5 million in transfer fees available for us to sign players on top of the 100 million that we are being given from the owners. Best case scenario, we can get up to 275 million off of those players, which would give us a budget of 375 million for this summer, which is more than enough to get the players that we need. The other important thing is that all those players sell we will save basically 1.5 million in wages, and that's not including the ones that go out on loan as well. So Donny's on 120k, Amad's on 30k a week. If we can convince a club to pay their wages while they're at the club, that saved wages figure goes up to 1.6, 1.7 million pounds. So huge bargaining power if we can get all of those sales done. Obviously, we cannot sell all of those players before we then sign more. It's going to be a balancing act of signing and selling as and when it's appropriate. But if we can free up around £200 million to spend on players this summer, I think we can have the transfer window that we need. So that is going to be it from me for today. I know this has been a very long one. It always is when we have discussions like this. Hopefully you've either watched it like this, or if you've watched it as like a podcast, then fair play to you as well. As always, let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments. I will be back with my next part of this video on Monday, where we'll be discussing all of the potential signings, who I think we should be signing, and my projected lineup for Manchester United next season. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you then.